Good afternoon, High Achievers, and welcome to the very first live edition of the High Achievers TV webinar. This is quite an exciting moment for me. This has been building for several weeks now, so I'm hoping that you've all got your ears pinned back, that you are ready to listen and learn, and that you've hopefully got a pen and paper to hand so you can make any notes to make a difference. Now then, I'm here in Newcastle today with my team, Andrew and Pete. Hopefully they're not going to be as noisy as that throughout the webinar, but they're on hand to field any questions that you might have. But how do we do that, Leslie, you might ask? Well, if you scroll down the screen slightly, you should see that there's a box for you to put your name and also in a box underneath that to add a question or a comment. So feel free at any point whilst I'm talking to put something in there, and Andrew and Pete will make sure that I'm aware of it and I'll answer them as they arise. Now, if you want to just say hi so that we know that you're there, you could actually test that at the moment. Pop your first name in, say hi, and we'd love to welcome you more formally. So I know today that you've taken some valuable time out of your business in order to perhaps learn some things that are going to help you achieve more. And I promised that I would cover three things. And those three things are looking at how to help you reduce stress and overwhelm, because I know this is something a lot of people talk to me about when I step into their businesses. People are looking to see how they can score some big wins. Everybody wants to achieve things quicker these days. And there are ways and tips and techniques to do that. So hopefully I'm going to give you some ways that might make a difference from that perspective. And then finally, I'm going to share some of my business experience with you to help you appreciate how perhaps you can turn your experience and passion into money. Now, why am I actually doing all of this? A lot of you out there will know me as Leslie from People Power Coaching, and that was a business that I established over 5 years ago now, and I'll share some of my lessons that I've learned along the way from setting up that business. But LeslieCallan.com was born last year, in my 50th year. Yes, I know you'll all be shocked. I am 50 years old, and I keep telling myself that it's very important to stay young, vibrant, and glamorous. And hopefully I'm managing to do that. But that's not what I want from you today. I don't want that sort of feedback. I want to know how I can make a difference to you and your business lives. And I've put together this company in order for me to share everything that I've learned along my business journey. Because I'm quite conscious that at some point in the future, I may want to retire or go on to a different venture. But I want to leave behind a legacy. I want to make sure that I've helped as many people as I possibly can and supported them in a way that I wish I perhaps had been supported throughout my business journey. I know that I've got a variety of people listening in. I've got some quite young people, sort of early in the 20s, and I've got some older people who are ready for retirement. But I believe that all my lessons are relevant to everyone. I just need you to take away the bit that will mean something to you and that will be your golden nugget to create some change. Because let's face it, that's why you're listening to me today. You want something to be bigger, better, or different. So I'm ready to start, and we'll see where this takes us. If you have a question at any point, fire it through, and if it's relevant, I'll stop and I'll answer that. So hopefully it will layer into what I'm saying. So as part of my preparation for this webinar, I decided to actually take a look back at my career and see where my most stressful points were, to actually identify where my big wins kicked in, but also to look at when I used my passion most to actually create a business that would give me the lifestyle that I wanted. Now, when I actually started to do this, it gave me the opportunity to acknowledge who I am. And I actually started my career when I was 7 years old. 7, Leslie, no, wasn't child slave labour. I actually used to clean my dad's car every Sunday for 20p. Now, at that time, that was probably the going rate. It might not seem much to you youngsters out there, but my dad used to love me doing that because he said it made him feel good going to work every Monday morning. So that was my drive, that was my passion. And I knew that I loved to help people. I knew that I loved make them feel better and make them feel more able to perform even at that young age of 7. Now, 7 was also a pivotal point for me because I used to be very good at school, always the teacher's pet. And I was really disappointed when it came to parents' evening. My mum and dad sat there, and I clearly remember my teacher with the beehive and long fingernails saying to my mum and dad, "I'm afraid that Leslie's only ever going to be average because she's too busy helping everybody else." Now, if we'd have really listened, what she was saying was, Leslie needs to stop concentrating on other people and put herself first sometimes, otherwise she's going to miss out on some of the learning opportunities. But the bit I heard was, Leslie's only ever going to be average. Now, at the time, I thought, well, that's all right. I can do average and I can be really good at doing average. So what happened? I went through school and I got average O-level results. I got average A-level results. I even had some average boyfriends along the way. And then I actually went on to do a degree and only got an average degree. Now, I actually decided at the end of my degree that it was perhaps time to stop doing all this academic stuff because it was only ever getting me average results. So I made the claim that I would actually never study again, not do any essays, not do any exams, and not take any tests. Now that's quite sad really, because now I teach everybody to never stop learning, and I'm going to explain what happened along the way. But I'm going to give you some takeaways as part of this webinar. And the first one that I'm going to give you is to actually think about your timeline. Look back through your career or your school life and perhaps identify the pivotal points that made you change direction and stop you from being your best. So takeaway number 1 is to actually create a timeline. Now, you can make that as valuable as you like. You can put on incidents, critical moments, you can put on the people that have made a difference. But perhaps if you can look back and identify the moments that have shaped you in a way that now stop you from performing at your best, it means you can actually deal with it. And it means you can actually move on. And like I say, once I actually looked at my previous advice that I was only ever going to be average, that taught me to actually never limit yourself in terms of what other people expect from you. But more critically, what it's really made me reflect on is how important it is to listen to what is really being said. So from there, I actually decided that if I wasn't going to do anything from an academic perspective, I needed to start a career from the scratch where I could work hard and get on through that means. So it meant that I didn't apply for any graduate programs, which is what everybody expected me to do. I'd been through university, everybody expected me to go in as a trainee manager. But no, that wasn't going to be for me. I'd even done a paper round from the age of 13 to 18, 7 days a week, getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I knew that I had energy, I knew that I had drive, and I knew that I could work hard and serve people no matter what. So Debenhams Preston announced they were opening a store at that point, and I decided to apply as a sales assistant and start from the bottom. Now, I went in there all guns blazing with the store open. I was in my element. I never stopped running around, emptying boxes, stacking shelves, putting things on hangers. And at some point, close to the opening, that hard work was recognised because I was approached by the store manager to see whether I would actually take up the honour of cutting the ribbon to open the store with the mayor. Wow. Is that what it means to be a high achiever, suddenly to get recognised for doing the things that you're good at? It really spurred me on and I felt exceptionally proud, not something that I'd really experienced up until that point, which is quite sad considering I was 21. So I actually accepted that moment and I soaked up the glory, but it wasn't about the public recognition. It was about knowing that I personally had helped as many people as I could. But it did start to make me more ambitious and I decided to seize the moment and get promoted every 6 months. But how was I going to do that? Well, my dad had given me a piece of advice that said, always perform at the role you want to be. Start to learn from the people above you. Don't get consumed in the day to day. Now, I know that this happens for a lot of you that are in your businesses at the moment. And you need people like me to come in and strip all that away and get you to look at it from a different perspective. So that became my drive to actually get promoted every 6 months. Did I achieve it? Yes, I did. But how did I do that? I actually, at the beginning of any new job, looked at what was required of the next position and started to identify the things I would need to do differently in order to impress. Now, it impressed people that much that I actually got promoted every 6 months, or if not less, over 4 years without one interview. That all came from my reputation and people understanding and knowing my ability. So I challenge you, are you really performing at the level that you should? What should people be identifying and recognizing in you? And that potentially is another task. Now, the task in hand is actually, I'm going to give you an example of two things that happen. Firstly, I'm working with a guy in an organisation who's a supervisor, and his ambition is to get promoted to manager and then leader. But he just didn't know how he was going to get there. So we actually looked at what the differences were with the responsibilities within that role. So if you use an S for supervisor, and I use an M for manager, and an L for leader, what we identified was that the supervisor gets the task done. The manager actually delegates the task to the supervisor and instructs where necessary. So the manager delegates. The leader makes the decision as to what tasks need to be done. Makes decisions. So when I looked at this with my client, he actually said, Leslie, I don't want to be the person that's here delegating, because in a way I already do some of that. I want to be the person that makes the decisions. So his objective was to go away and find out how he could be involved in the meetings with the leaders where the decisions were made. And trust me, he is now on a fast track program to become a leader within the organisation. And because of this work, they've actually decided to run an emerging leaders program to help other people evolve through the organisation that have the potential to be supercharged from position 1 to 2 to 3. Now, something similar happened when I worked with an organisation. I was dealing with two young guys, had a marketing company, and everything that they were doing was very local. And it was low price. But they had the ambition to be international superstars. And they were stuck in a rut because they'd entered the market at a low price in order to gain some market share. But they just didn't know how to get there. What they'd done was focus on building websites at an exceptionally cheap price for a few £100s. So I actually posed the question. They had a very high salary they wanted to pay each other. I said, hey, the maths don't work. You are never going to be able to pay yourself delivering that level of work to a local market at that price. What is it that the people that are operating globally and at a premium price, what are they doing? So we actually outlined all the work that they were doing. And it was things like this. It was webinars, it was podcasts, it was being very effective on social media. But these guys didn't have the time to do that because they were too consumed with this local market and satisfying all these low price customers. So I actually challenged them to take a week off and take stock and actually plan what it would look like if their business was global and premium price. And I have to say, I've been blown away by the results. They came back with a radically different business plan. And within the first month, it started to generate more income than they had from the previous business. And I'm delighted to say they have gone global and they are starting to get recognised. And they've also been winning awards. That's within a very short period of time. So my takeaway number 2 is to actually for you to think about where you are now, where it is you want to be, and what are the differences in behaviour and attitude and skill and experience and knowledge that you need. So I'm just going to write down what are the differences. So I hope you're writing that down too, so that it inspires you to make a difference. So I nicely went through my career with Debenhams, which went on into the Arcadia Group, and because of my ambition and drive to get promoted and constantly to keep the previous people above me happy, I got to the wonderful position of area manager with a team of 450 underneath me. Now, way back when I was 21, thinking I was only average, never believed for 1 minute that I would achieve that. And it's quite interesting to see how your past experiences affect your self-esteem. But as I started to identify the next role that I wanted to head for, I suddenly realised that I didn't like the type of person that I was going to have to become. It would have meant that I was away from home a lot. It meant I couldn't start a family. It also meant I had to lead people in a way that I didn't feel comfortable with. I would have had to change my style and it didn't suit me. So, because I'd previously taken responsibility for my career in terms of trying to get promoted, I decided to really take responsibility and get a hold of what was going to happen to me. And to the horror of my husband, I decided to take a career break. Now, this is something that, again, I recommend to my clients. Don't become a victim of your own business. Don't become a victim of your career. Hold the responsibility that affects you and your family. So I took that career break, and whilst I was previously on an amazing financial package, I suddenly had to manage with nothing. And that was quite a shock to the system. But because I'd started at Debenhams from scratch again, I had every confidence that I'd be able to rebuild a career. We took the opportunity to adopt a little boy, so we became a true family. And my husband and I decided that perhaps it was time for us both to work on something that we had experience in and were passionate about. And my husband was a property expert at the time. My passion was people and serving customers. So we set up our own estate agency in a little corner shop that was just across the school from our son, believing we would just be an average northeast estate agency that would serve people all day long, and it would give us sufficient income to live the life that we led. However, because we had this magical combination of amazing experience and remarkable passion, it became a winning formula. And before we knew it, we'd grown to 4 branches, 26 employees, and we were nominated Best Estate Agent in Lancashire for 5 years running. Now that was all great, but actually what was starting to happen was the business was taking control over me again, and I didn't feel I had responsibility. I was performing at my best because we were winning awards, but I really wasn't acknowledging who I was, and I didn't feel happy and comfortable. But something happened, a pivotal moment that helped me to take responsibility once again. And it was the credit crunch. If you recall, back in 2007, so it was a long time ago now, in September, property market was hit. There was an article went in the Daily Mail to say that property prices were going to crash. And overnight, we lost nearly half our pipeline within the estate agency. So what started to happen was we had to shrink the business, and we had to shrink it quickly. But as part of that, I was also having to shrink with my role and responsibilities. I didn't want to go back to being average again, which is where it was pushing me. So I took responsibility to step out once again. Now that was quite a scary moment, but I know twice in the past I've been able to start from scratch and it not be too much of a difficulty. But what happened as I stepped out, we had to move away from our beautiful home and rent it out. I had to hand my car back in order to pay redundancies and let staff go. But once the business was taken away, then my husband and I acknowledged so was our relationship. And we decided, in order for us to take responsibility, for us to be at our best, we would split amicably, and we are now still good friends as part of that, which means my son still feels like he has a family. However, in reality, what was going on was that I'd had to move away completely to a different area. I moved back home. I ended up in a damp cottage with no career, no job, no prospect of earning money, and I was suddenly a single parent with nobody to refer to. I'd lost all my friend network, I'd also lost my business network. So I was starting from scratch once again. Now, that in itself is quite a scary moment. But I'd made the decision because I wanted to take responsibility for me being at my best. So, task number 3 is, what do you need to take responsibility for? What do you need to take responsibility for in order for you to be at your best? So, I'm just going to write down take responsibility. And hopefully you'll be writing the full sentence. What do you need to take responsibility for in order for you to perform at your best and acknowledge how you can add most value to the business? So I was in this dreadful position of not really knowing what to do, and I didn't have anybody to help me. And I soon recognised that actually that needed to be the starting point, but I'd nothing to offer. I'd not even got a business card, I'd no business, I'd no career, and all I could afford was the price of a cup of coffee. And that was it. That was my inspirational moment. Perhaps that's what I need to do, is ring people up who can hopefully help me and inspire me so that I can make the decisions that I need to make over the price of a cup of coffee. So I put together my coffee list of 10 people who I knew would be able to give me some insight and support. And as part of that journey, people were exceptionally helpful. I couldn't believe the response that I got. I'd approached a guy because he'd written a book, and that's something that is in my list of things to do now. And I'd actually gone to him and said, look, how did you manage to put together all this business knowledge? He presented me with the business plan for that book. Who'd have thought, there I am, single parent, no prospects, and suddenly people are giving me some of their life work and experience that I can learn from them too. So this was quite a pivotal moment for me. What I also had a lot of was thinking time. And I soon started to recognise that I was always very busy in my career, but I never really stepped back to look at how I really could be at my best and how I add value to businesses. And that's one of the questions that somebody asked me when I actually sat down with them, is what difference do I make? Now, my inner critic and my emotions started to get the better of me, because this nagging doubt from the past about only being average kept telling me that I wasn't really good enough to start a business on my own. Everybody believed that I was only successful because I'd been working with my husband. But actually, I knew that hard work got me to where I would need to be. But this nagging doubt would keep coming back, and I had to learn to tame that. Now, when I sat with this critical person having this cup of coffee, they actually said to me, Leslie, what is it you really need to say to yourself? What is it you really need to do? And I took a step back and recognised that I am at my best helping other people. And I love seeing my staff develop. That stemmed from my work with the Arcadia Group. And when I looked back, I'd actually dealt with over 1,000 managers, whether that be through people I work with or assessment centres or recruitment. 1,000 managers, surely there's some value in that. I'd also been an SME business owner, and I've got lots of experience to share. So out of that question, I decided that I was going to initiate a new business as a business coach, and my business was going to be called People Power, because I wanted to help people find that inner strength that I always found when I faced adversity. And this adversity into adventure became quite a theme throughout my business. So I'm going to ask you now, when you're facing adversity, how quickly can you turn that round into an adventure? How quickly can you silence your inner critic and take control of your emotions? So I'm actually going to write down adversity into adventure, and hopefully you'll capture that too. And it might be you're at a pivotal point at the moment where you feel you are facing adversity yourself. So how can you take responsibility, again, for you to perform at your best? So From there, People Power was born, and I'm proud to say that after a difficult first year, because I was finding my feet, I now deal with some very large organisations, those that have got over 100 employees, owner managers who are perhaps looking for a retirement plan, or owner managers who are a real high growth mission. Either way, I always make sure they understand that they are high achievers. All too often, we fail to recognise what value we've added to a business. Thinking back to the questions I was asked while having coffee, this is something that is of real critical importance. How often do you really recognise the skill, the experience, the knowledge, and the attitude that you take into the business? So I'm going to give you another takeaway. If you could actually record everything that you bring to the table, what would that look like? Okay, so I'm going to just put, how do you add value? But more importantly, how much of that value you're using on a daily basis? Now, I asked this question of a business owner recently, and they were embarrassed to say probably only 20%. They were very much in their comfort zone. They knew things wanted to be differently, but they weren't quite sure what. When we made the list of skills, experience, knowledge, and attitude, they recognised that actually it was time to put into practice everything that they'd learned from business. So that's why this is a very important exercise. Are you at 20%? Maybe it's higher. How close can you get to 90? You expect your staff to apply their knowledge and their learning and experience all the time. Do you really lead by example? So from there, I've actually, as I said at the beginning, set up my business, lesliecallum.com, because I've learned so much from my experience and other people that I've been engaged with, that I actually do really want to pass this on, and I want to support you in any way that I possibly can. One of the tips that I give people is to actually take this inner critic and turn it into an inner coach. Let me explain. Your inner critic will dwell on the past. It will tell you that you are stupid for doing such a thing. It will make you dwell on issues. It will make you presume that other people are thinking other things. And all those assumptions can build into quite a negative picture and can form barriers. Now, if you could start to be kinder to yourself and drop this inner critic and turn it into an inner coach, then you will find that life suddenly becomes more positive. So instead of allowing your critic to say, that was a pretty stupid move, allow your coach to say, well, that didn't go well. What would you do differently next time? It might be that your inner critic says, oh, don't go there again. But your inner coach says, have another try. Now, I often say to people in this situation, when I'm not there and you can't make a decision, imagine I'm sat on your shoulder. What is it I'd be saying? That's what you need to come from your inner coach so that you can encourage yourself to do even more. Now then, I'd actually like to add something to this in terms of encouragement. When I was developing my business on my own, single parent, very emotional, not knowing what to do, I realised that quite often I'd be upset, I'd be angry, I'd be disappointed with myself. No matter where I went in the house, I would feel this emotion. So I took the opportunity to select one place where I was only allowed to focus on the future and what I could do going forward. Now I did that. I'm going to draw this symbol because this means something to me. And please excuse my artwork, but I'm actually going to draw a garden swing. Now, my garden swing was my point of reflection, because somebody once said to me, Leslie, you can listen to all these people, you can watch all these YouTube videos, you can read these books, but the learning actually comes from the thinking. The learning comes from the silence within. So I went out there, rain, hail or snow, onto my swing every day, and I created the discipline of allowing myself at least 5 minutes to reflect on what I needed to think about. So I would ask myself 3 questions, and those 3 questions were, what have I achieved today? Now on some days, I have to say, it felt like nothing because I hadn't really got a business, I hadn't really got the contacts. But I still went on with it day by day. So what have I achieved today? What could I have done better? Now it might have been that actually, because my self-esteem was low, I'd actually only called 2 people. What could I have done better? I could have rung 10, but I stopped at 2. So my third question was always, how can you achieve more tomorrow? And this almost gave me my blueprint for the day or my goals and objectives for going forward. This reflective space is critical if you're wanting to achieve more. It's important for you to acknowledge who you are as part of this learning. You could ask the question, what's stopping me? You would understand your barriers. It reduces the stress. It stops you from being overwhelmed because it means you focus on the big wins. And it's exceptionally motivating because before you go to bed, you're already telling yourself you're going to achieve more the next day. So I'm actually going to put on here, garden swing. You find your space for you and make it your daily discipline in order to achieve even more. Now I'm hoping that you can see how these tools and tips are exceptionally simple. You've already experienced from me that I don't learn from an academic perspective. I like to do practical, quick wins. And I believe this is why my work is of value to other people, because I know others in business want that too. Now, for some of you, I know that you will actually go away and do the takeaways that I've identified, and that would be amazing, and I'd love to hear your results. For some of you, you might have just taken away one small golden nugget that's going to make a difference. But I also know that others of you are looking at how to engage with me further. And so I've put something together for you that is quite a simple way of helping you much quicker to acknowledge who you are, to consider how you perform best. Now, once we finish, you'll be able to take a look at this on my website, but I've invested in a system that I've called the Discoverer. Bear with me one moment. I hate covering up my garden swing, it's my best spot. However, I've put together the Discoverer, and I'll straighten it up because like everybody knows me, my standards are high. And what the Discoverer does is offer you the opportunity to go experience a profile. And that profile generates reports that allow me the opportunity to feed back to you the following. It allows me to feed back to you how you can turn your inner critic into your inner coach so that you can be more positive at work. It helps me help you to learn how to cope better under pressure, because you've all said that's one of the reasons why you're listening in today. You can also appreciate the value you bring to the business, because I'll identify where your strengths lie and where potentially your weaknesses are. Now, I don't actually like that phrase weaknesses. I tend to use the word challenge. What this does is help you identify the areas that you're not yet doing, and it questions, do you actually need to do that anyway? Or is there somebody else in your team that has that strength? Let's focus more on what you're good at. That in turn allows you to become more influential within your team, and it gives you a real insight as to how to help you know when you are at your best in order to achieve more. Now, some of you, this won't be relevant, but others, it might. And I'd be quite excited to work with anybody that's registered on my webinar, and there's quite a few of you now. And I've done this at a special price for you today. It's on my website at £199 per person because of the value that I add to your business. If you're wanting to invest in this so that you can get to be a high achiever more quickly, then I'm delivering a special price today for £149. And trust me, I will add so much value to what you are going to do and what you can achieve. As I've already said, for those of you that are looking for change, then you need to do something different. And this is why this is being created. For those of you that don't feel ready for something like this or for any one-to-one intervention with me, I'd really like you to stay engaged with the High Achievers TV program. There'll be lots more free webinars and you'll get my weekly insights through to hopefully motivate you going forward. I'm happy to take questions from anybody at any point, and quite often you'll see on my videos I actually credit some of that work to the people that have put forward those questions or that have given me that insight whilst I've been working with them. So I'm hoping today that you've got a little bit of a flavour as to how I'm now working with people, but as you know, I'm giving the responsibility to you to become a high achiever. I've enjoyed this moment. I wasn't quite sure how it would all go to plan. Andrew and Pete have been very quiet, so I'm now just going to turn to them to see if there's any questions come through so that I can answer everything.
Yeah, so we've got a few questions already coming through, but keep them coming. The first one here is we've got some funny ones actually. I'll leave them to the last. Funny. One here is, how long does the discoverer take? And I think it would also be good to just explain the process as well.
Yeah. We've got another person down here. Not how long does it take, but how much one-to-one time do they get with you?
Right, okay. Okay, well, the Discoverer has been put together by a company called Thomas International. It's been built on the back of some research that was established way back in the 1920s. And this was looking at people's behaviour when under pressure at work and how they can perform at their best. And this work has been taken by Thomas and put into a profiling system, which has now been running for over 30 years. And it is mapped out globally. They do have people delivering this. I've become an accredited trainer, but what I've done is I've actually added my coaching ability into the process because I've had the report done, and the report on its own isn't valuable enough. I'm the sort of person that can help you make sense of it and say the things that need to be said in order for you to move on. So the actual profile itself should take you no more than 10 minutes. And we ask that because if you deliberate too long over the answers to the questions that are posed, it means that you're probably thinking too hard and you're influencing the survey in the wrong way. So a survey is undertaken. I generate the reports. I'll take time to analyse those and prepare the feedback, and then we'll organise either a face-to-face or a one-to-one coaching session, depending on where you're based. That session will last up to an hour, but trust me, it will be one of the most impactful hours that you will have experienced throughout your career, because we really get down to the nitty-gritty of who you are and how to perform at your best. For some of you, it might be about acknowledging what you already know, but bringing it to the forefront. For others, there might be some shocks in there as to perhaps the impact you have on other people. But if you're working within a team, to have several of you done, it makes even more of a difference, because it means you can compare and look at, as a team, whether you'll function properly, and if there's any vacancies, what type of person needs to fill that gap. Have I answered both questions there?
Yeah, we've got another one that's just come through as well that says, on the Discoverer, do they just put their name and phone number in the form on the website below the video? Yes,
if you can do that. And then on Friday, I'm going to be sitting down in my office and making those phone calls to get in touch with you all. Yeah. And we'll arrange a specific appointment that fits you as well. And at the moment, I'm quite flexible with my time. I do appreciate that business owners don't always like to do this within 9 to 5 working hours. So there are a couple of evenings where I'm prepared to work on the Discoverer with people, even Saturday mornings. So please don't feel that you can't do it because you're constantly stuck at your desk.
Okay.
Yeah, so to save the 50 quid, all they need to do is put the name and number in the box below.
Yeah, in the box below, and then I'll give you a call on Friday. If you want to add a comment in the questions box to say you're not available Friday, another time would be great. Even better, that whatever works for you. But the more people that get in touch with me, the more I can help, the more impact we can have.
Okay, that's great. We've got another question here from Claire. Claire says, thanks Leslie, really inspiring webinar. What advice would you give to somebody who really wants to achieve more but struggles to find the time?
Okay, I'm a great believer that you can't manage time, you can only manage yourself. So Claire, I would suggest that you need to get a little bit of self-discipline around what you're doing. And rather than creating a to-do list, I want you to create a not to-do list. I want you to look at the things that you should stop that will allow you the time. Now, Facebook is a prime example. When I sit down with people who say they haven't got enough time, when we look at it, they're spending on average 45 minutes to an hour a day on Facebook. Now, if you could hone that in, make it much more specific, we could do something really valuable with that time. So it's all about self-discipline, Claire, and it's all about looking at what you shouldn't do rather than what you should do. But remember what I said about the example of the business, they really started to focus on where they were going to be. So I would suggest that every activity that you're doing now, just take stock and ask the question, is this taking me to where I want to be? If not, how do I stop doing this? How do I lose it? How do I pass it on to other people? I hope that helps, Claire.
Awesome. That's really good. Another one here from Joe. Does it show that you are crazy?
She means the Discoverer.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it doesn't tell me if you're a psychopath or anything like that. And to be honest, that was one of my biggest fears when I had it done for me during the training. I thought, oh, crikey, what are they going to come back and tell me? No, this is the reason I've decided to invest in this system is because it focuses on the things that you're good at. So it's a really positive tool for saying, look, this is what you bring to the table. Let's do more of it. Some of these things perhaps need you to reflect on or work on, but this is where we're taking it, looking at how you best add value to the organisation. So, yeah, please don't worry. And what I must say is that as a coach, I am bound by a code of conduct, of confidentiality. So even if there is something in there that you don't like, nobody else would ever know.
We've already got a few people signing up to this already, which is fantastic.
Great, super. Can't wait.
Is there a limit on this? A deadline where they need to put in the name and number before this closes?
Yeah, I think if they can have done it really by close of business tomorrow latest, because I will be sitting down on Friday. I've committed a day to doing that, to contacting people. We won't actually be doing the Discover on Friday. I'll just be making the phone call to you, firstly to check that it's the right thing for you going forward, and secondly to sort of say, right, how's this best going to fit in? Is it next week we do it, or do you need a few weeks to think about what impact this will have?
Cool.
So I need to make sure people are ready for it.
We've saved one of the best questions till last year. About 20 people have asked this question. Who is your hairdresser? No, just kidding.
Can I answer? It's one of the businesses that I'm coaching, and it's a very good friend. And it's based in Preston, called We Love Hair. It'd be very impressed if I shared that with everybody. My hair has become my signature, I must admit, and it's here to stay. Appreciate the interest.
Okay, we've got one more question here from another Andrew. So, hey, another Andrew, good name. That is, what do you wish you knew that you didn't know 10 years ago?
To listen, to really listen to what's being said. I've always been a very busy person, on to the next thing, and thinking that I've heard what was going on. But as part of the training, I'm a fully qualified coach now through my journey, I decided to take a postgraduate certificate, which meant that I really could position myself as an expert. And it was during that journey that I understood how important it is to give other people airspace and to actually sit back and allow them to talk before you form an opinion. Now, if I'd have listened more closely to people, I probably wouldn't have had to start from scratch 3 times. But my profile told me that I was quite stubborn. And my response was, me, stubborn, never. But saying that phrase in itself meant that I was. So I actually have learned to listen to my feedback from the discoverer and say, do you know what? Is my stubbornness sometimes making my journey longer than it needs to be? The skill that I develop the most with people within my business, without doubt, is that listening.
Cool.
Good question, then. Thank you.
Well, I think that's about it for questions.
Would you like to
final thoughts, finally wrap it up, just summarize, what we've gone through today, and just to, explain just once again what the Discover actually is, and, just finally.
Okay, well, before I go into another 45 minutes or however long I've been, very quickly, I'm passionate about supporting other people in business. And for those of you that are already engaged with me, I hope you get that, you know that. For me, I'm hoping I've ticked some of these boxes for you by helping you recognise that you have the ability to take responsibility for everything that's happening around you. It's just the decisions that are sometimes difficult. And people like me can support you with change. So I teach my clients to share, to listen, to reflect, and to learn, but most importantly, to act. And remember what I said earlier about the learning is in the silence. Well, look, the teaching is in my words. I've shared with you as much as I feel is relevant today, but now it's time for you to go away and learn from thinking about what this has all meant to you. And if I've done good, it would be great if you could let me know and share with other people. If I've not just achieved what you wanted me to, then equally let me know, because I can either create a blog about it, I can do a video, or I can put it in my next webinar. Your feedback will feed my organisation, because remember, it's here to serve you. So thank you for taking the time to listen. I really appreciate your support, guys. I know for some of you, I'll be seeing you next week anyway. But for those of you who are farther afield, then please keep in touch. Have a great rest of week. Bye, everyone.
Woo! Well done.
Thank you.